At the time of uploading this video, it's been more than a year since Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out. The long-awaited remakes of fan-favorite Gen 4 games failed miserably in the eyes of many fans who begged for these remakes for years. In this video, we're going to take a look at the problems with these games and why they failed as remakes. And if you stick to the end, we also recommend another, not so well-known alternative you might want to try instead, if you truly want to experience the remakes in a better way. And yes, we know we're coming a bit late on this train, but listen, we too have things to share about these remakes. So sit back and enjoy our review of Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, branded as faithful remakes of Diamond and Pearl, came out November 2021 on the Switch. The remakes are the first games in the core series not developed directly by Game Freak. Instead, they were developed by ILCA, or I Love Computer Art, which was responsible for projects like Dragon Quest XI and Pokémon Home. Now, since Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are remakes of the fan-favorite Gen 4 games, the expectations were high. Although the coming release of back then highly anticipated Pokémon Legends Arceus overshadowed the hype of the remakes a bit. It's worth mentioning that the actual fan-favorite Sinnoh game was the more enhanced Pokémon Platinum, which brought huge improvements over the previous two. So, although the remakes were supposed to be faithful, most of the community was expecting them to contain all the improvements from Pokémon Platinum, but that didn't really happen. Among the other expected features were new and expanded post-game Mega Evolutions, improved aesthetics, new minigames, contests and underground changes, and making HMs less annoying. And although some of the features like improved aesthetics and contests and underground changes have been implemented, it didn't really go the way the fans had envisioned it. So what is missing? What's really wrong with the remakes? Let the rant begin. Problem number 1. Missing Platinum content. As we've already mentioned, most of the Platinum content we love so much was completely excluded. The Giratina story, the Distortion World, the redesigns of places like Stark Mountain, the Battle Frontier, and even the quality of life improvements from Platinum are missing. And yes, you could argue that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are remakes of Diamond and Pearl, not Platinum. But when we look back at previous remakes, Heart Gold and Soul Silver had implemented the features from Crystal, and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire included those of Emerald. The choice to exclude the features from Platinum, which is the better version of the Gen 4 Sinnoh games, is completely unreasonable in our opinion. Problem number 2, game difficulty. We do realize that this is primarily a game for children, but this problem could be easily preventable. You see, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have the same level curve as the originals, but there is an always turned on EXP share for the whole party, which results in your Pokemon being constantly overleveled. And as if this wasn't enough, the game features an affection system, which also cannot be turned off. Affection with your Pokemon increases as you use them and walk around the world, and after reaching a certain level of affection, your Pokemon will start hitting critical hits every other attack, and sometimes even stay alive at 1 HP instead of dying. Whole party EXP share and the affection system wouldn't even be a problem if a player could actually turn them off to increase difficulty. So, despite the efforts to make the game harder by improving certain battles and making Elite Four more competitive, the games are still way too easy and completely unrewarding. Problem number 3. Glitches and clunkiness. Let's start with the fact that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were released as unfinished games, requiring an update a week later for them to be playable. And even after that, the amount of glitches and actual soft locks present in the game was crazy. Although the game was updated multiple times and many glitches were fixed, it still contains a ton of them. Now, the remakes coming in 3D and allowing the player to move diagonally too may sound like a good thing, but the games still use a 2D map for objects. This results in a really clunky feeling around every object and makes walking through tight spaces feel truly unnatural. It's also worth mentioning that precisely this diagonal movement causes a few glitches itself, like the ability to skip half of the puzzles in Snow Point City Gym by glitching through a slope. Even the added feature of Pokemon following you as you walk doesn't feel right. The Pokemon are scaled weirdly and sometimes just move too slow. Problem number 4, the clear lack of new stuff. The main selling point of the remakes, being faithful to originals, actually developed into one of its main problems. The games have basically nothing new to offer, and when we look back on the previous remakes, we can see that added content is exactly what made them so successful. Heart Gold and Soul Silver set the bar so high by adding Pokemon following you, the almost complete storyline from Crystal, Battle Frontier, and the Pokeathlon, just to name a few. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire followed the trend by adding Mega Evolution, the post-game, happening in space, or even the ability to soar above the cities on Latias or Latios. Simply adding the aforementioned Platinum content, Mega Evolutions, expanding the story a bit, or at least adding Pokemon from other generations would greatly improve the remakes. These 4 problems were the main ones we have encountered, but there were many other irritating things in the game, like the comeback of single-use TMs, but we will spare you of those details. With the rant being over, we can now look into things Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl got right, but there's not much. Compared to the originals, which are notorious for their slow pace, the remakes improved noticeably on this front. As we've already mentioned, ILCA also made an effort to make some of the battles more difficult and competitive, especially the Elite Four. The HMs were brought back, but because they were handled by the Poketch, you don't need to worry about them ruining your movesets. The last improvement is the character customization. Although being a bit lacking, the option to customize your character definitely enhances the immersion of the game. Among the changes made in the remakes, there were some questionable ones. The decision to make all the characters look like chibis to preserve the original feel of the game is nice, but it ruins the more serious scenes a little. Just imagine trying to take seriously Chibi Cyrus making a grand speech. Another questionable improvement is the ease of getting legendary and mythical Pokemon. You truly don't have to do much to obtain most of them, which makes getting them feel unrewarding. For example, Mew and Jirachi are simply given to you before the second gym by NPCs. The Super Contest turning into rhythm games and the rework of Underground received mixed opinions too. Now, with an overview of what the remake's positives and negatives look like, we can speculate why the games turned out this way. As already said before, the efforts of ILCA to stay as close as possible to the original Diamond and Pearl was the biggest source of the game's criticism. To address the glitchiness of the remakes, it's possible, and considering the unfinished state the game was released in, even probable that the game development was simply rushed. Why, you may ask? One guess we have is that with the new OLED version of the Switch having been released just a few months earlier, it makes sense to want to put out a new Pokemon game as fast as possible for it to sell with the new variant. One of the other theories circulating in the community was that Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were simply meant to be placeholder games until the big title, Legend Arceus, was released. Who knows? Maybe if the remakes were the main title being developed at that time, we could have gotten an open world Sinnoh experience we hadn't even dreamed of. We can speculate all day, but the fact that these long-awaited remakes are simply lacking will not change. Now, what if we told you that there's a way to fix most of the problems Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl contain? You've probably heard about Pokemon Renegade Platinum before, which was a ROM hack that greatly enhanced the experience of Gen 4 games. A similar hack exists for the remakes, called Pokemon Luminescent Platinum. Pokemon Luminescent Platinum simply overhauls everything in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl with the added Platinum content, new Pokemon from other generations, true-sized Pokemon, and many other features missing in the remakes. So, if you struggle with the same problems we did while playing the games, you may want to consider looking into this interesting ROM hack. In conclusion, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl might have some good points, but the glitches, lack of difficulty, and new content, plus other missing features heavily outweigh the positives. The games could definitely be enjoyable for some people, but as remakes, we consider them failures. What do you think of the games? Have you actually enjoyed the games, or are they not what you had dreamed they'd be? Let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our other videos too, and as always, have a great one.